Hi there again. I added to her a couple more magnets today and last night, and I was working on doing her cape and doing up her scabbard. So remember, I magnetized her hands last night, or her arms. That was the saber, and there's the crossbow. And I thought if you were to have the saber, it would cause the problem of the scabbard. If you wanted to have it on, then it would look like she had two weapons, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but so what I did was I drilled out this spot. Again, it's not completely flush, but I think this one, you can paint over it, like probably just a single layer, and it would be fine. So if you notice, there's a circular stud. It would be probably pretty easy just to paint this over and just paint like a little spot of the same color so it would look similar. And what I did was, again, very carefully, I drilled out the back of the scabbard. So this was a 1 millimeter by 0.5 millimeter, so it wouldn't go the whole way through, and yeah, it works pretty well. So there, she could have two swords, or she could have her sword and her crossbow. And the more complicated thing I did, well, the other thing I was thinking of doing is maybe like cutting off here. Right, so cut off right there where the cross guard is, and then maybe putting a magnet in there so that you could like have the scabbard, but it would be it would either look empty or with a sword in it if you like magnetize these two parts from here and here. But I thought that was getting a bit too complicated. The other part I did that I'm really happy about was the cape here. So this part, I started off by drilling this one out. I had an idea of where I wanted to put it, so I drilled them out in a line. I wanted to make them line up pretty well with what I had here. So this is her cape, and these are 1 millimeter by 0.5 millimeter again, just so that they wouldn't go in too deep and weaken her shoulders at all. So she's still quite solid, and there's glue in there that holds it together as well, right? And then here's her cape. So these are 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter. So unfortunately, they go through to the other side, but it's easy to cover up with green stuff or glue. Yeah, so I put glue on both sides because they kind of were a little loose. What I did was I started off with these two. Just drilled them in and glued them in so that they were flush. So these ones are actually flush with the skin. So the idea, again, just like the scabbard here, is that I would be able to paint over these parts and they would not be overly noticeable. So just like a thin layer, like a single layer of paint, or just a few, well, a layer of paint would be, if you water it down, would be pretty thin, right? So like even with glue over top of them, the magnets still work fine, so I'm certain that paint would make no difference either. So what I did was actually I put two 1 millimeter, I'm just going to grab some here to show you what I did. So I just put two 1 millimeter magnets on her shoulders. God, these are not easy to deal with, right? So I took one. Oh my gosh, they're not easy. Oh, anyways, so I took one. That's two, actually. I took one, and what I did was I put some black paint on the back and kind of fussed them around here so that they would mark up the back, and then I would have a good idea of where they should go. The holes should be drilled out. And then, there, again, no focus, sorry. Only one focus. So then, yeah, so then I left the two, I drilled out the holes, left the two on there, and slid them in to make sure that they would work out before actually gluing them in, and they looked fine, so I slid them in, glued one of them, glued this one first. I think you need to kind of take it one step at a time, because if you make a mistake, it could be really difficult to fix it without breaking the model, right? So yeah, anyways, so that works out pretty well. It holds pretty firmly. It's not exactly as flush with her collar as I had wanted it to be, but I think it works out really well. So with everything all done up, I can throw the scabbard on here. Oops. No problem. And I can throw the crossbow on. No problem. Whoops. And then it'll just be a display piece, right? Not for playing with. That's not my intention, at least. Yeah, so there she is. And she looks good. And everything can be taken off. Yeah. Next thing I'm going to be working on, is the pin-up savior. And I've already started. She's going to be more difficult because her back is on an angle, as opposed to the shoulder blades of the great hunter, game hunter. So this one's going to be a little more difficult because this is also a thinner cape. But my plan as well is to magnetize this one. We'll see if it's worth making a video for that. Alright, thanks guys. Merry Christmas.